everyone, welcome back to Business Studies class. In last class we have studied that Frederick Winslow Taylor has given 4 principles which are known as scientific management principles or Taylorism. In order to follow those scientific management principles, he even guided some of the he has given some of the tools and techniques. So those tools and techniques we have here, almost 5 tools we have already studied. So once a manager is able to use these tools and techniques, he can easily follow all the scientific management principles given by F.W. Taylor. So there we have started with standardization and simplification of work. That is, for everything standards has to be set. It might be regarding the recruitment of people, a particular standard has to be set. Uniformity has to be set, and every time the same procedure has to be followed, right? And same in case of purchase of raw materials, some standards has to be set. That is, what kind of raw materials has to be purchased, so that whoever may be in that position, by seeing these standards he can easily follow that, and there will be uniformity in purchase of raw materials. And even the simplification of work has to be divided. That is, the work, how the simplification will be achieved, to be frank, by dividing the work and allotting to the different people. Generally simplification of work can be done. So this is the first tool given by the Taylor. Unless you follow these tools, it becomes impossible for a manager to use all the scientific management principles. Second, we have seen as method study. It is a study regarding the equipments, the missions and everything in the organization. Once a manager goes with the studying or having a detailed information of all the equipments, he can have good operations. Hence, method study has to be conducted in an organization. It might be like equipment, what type of equipment it is, what type of feed it requires, how it works. So a particular manager should have good information about all the tools and equipments used in an organization. That he will come to know with the help of method study. And even along with that, he should have a standardization in doing a particular method, in using a particular machinery. Is it clear? So a manager should have standard in that too. That is what your method study helps. Time study. A time study in the sense, a manager should know good information about what is the time taken by each and every equipment in an organization, so that he can properly arrange the things. That study he has to conduct, and he should have that data. Then comes motion study, that is movement study. A manager should have data regarding the time taken in the different movements of people or machinery. Then fatigue study. Fatigue study in the sense, a manager should know at what level, at what stage employees he can find fatigue. That is, when a fatigue arises, that is feeling of bored, a feeling of diminishing in their ability. When it arises, at what point it arises, so that at that point he can give some rest intervals, so that after using the rest intervals, the efficiency of the employees can be again revived. They can go with the same efficiency. If such intervals are not given, fatigue arises. That is, a feeling of diminishing in efficiency arises, and they feel that they don't want to work. Then comes functional foremanship. This is the most important tool we have to understand. Okay. So here Frederick Winslow Taylor has come out with the functional foremanship. It is a concept which leads to specialization, labor specialization. That is what specialization in work we have seen given by Henry Fayol. That is, Henry Fayol said that when work is divided and allotted to the different people, generally it leads to specialization. People become expert because you divide the work and allot the work to the different people depending upon their efficiency. And when that person continuously does that work, generally he becomes expert in that, specialist in that. The same idea even Taylor agrees, and he says that the foreman's job is very typical. Where we find this foreman? In level 3. That is, different levels of management we have. There we have top level, middle level and bottom level or supervisory level we see. okay, or lower level of management we say, right. This foreman will be in the lower level, that is in the bottom level, third level, okay, and he will be directly connected with whom? The workforce. So here Taylor suggests that the work of foreman is very typical, it's not so easy. Hence says that this foremanship has to be divided. Entire responsibility of allotting work, planning and making them doing the work should not be allotted to the single foreman, he says, because it includes the foremanship, the act of foremanship, or the responsibility of foremanship includes too many tasks. Hence entire tasks should not be given to a single foreman. According to that, he has divided the tasks of foreman, right. He has divided the works of foreman. So a functional foremanship is also called as divided foremanship. So he has come out with two divisions mainly, planning department and executive departments, or it can be like this also, planning foremen and execution foremen, right. Now as we know that this foreman will be in the third level, who is directly connected with the lower level, workforce, actual employees. There Taylor suggests that you divide the foremen, make them specialists in their work. How you will be making them specialists? By giving them a routine work on a continuous basis, so they become expert in that. So what it says is, planning and execution should not be with the same foreman. Is that right? For example, I am a foreman, I am working as a foreman, okay. So my task, either it should be planning, either it should be execution. Are you getting that? Planning is an initial step, that is a mental exercise, and execution is literally doing the work. What Taylor says is, planning and execution both are very important tasks, so you don't combine them. Planning should be done by one foreman and execution should be done by another foreman, so that they become perfect in their work and they attain specialization. Is that clear? We know the benefits of specialization. When a particular person is expert in a particular field, his confidence levels will be high. His growth opportunities will be high. He'll be easily reaching higher position, status, and monetary benefits he'll be gaining. Unless he becomes expert in his work, specialist in his work, these things cannot be achieved, right? Hence he says that Taylor suggests that you divide planning and execution departments differently, okay. So accordingly, in planning you have these four types of formats, okay. So initially he has identified that the task of foreman is typical, hence you divide the formats. You make some classifications in the foreman, that is planning is separate and execution is separate. Some foremen should be wholly responsible only with the planning. They should only plan. They should not be given any burden of executing the work. That is literally making others to do the work, okay. And execution part, they should receive the orders and they should start executing the orders. They don't have any trouble they should not given any task of thinking. No, that should be given to me and I should do. Is that clear? So in that planning department we have four foremen, like route clerk, instruction, okay, instruction card clerk, time and cost clerk, shop disciplinarian. So these are the four types of foremen. These are the foremen. These are the specialists in their work. Let us see who are these. What they will be doing. So first one is route clerk. Route clerk. So he will be planning the sequence of work. What should be done? What should be the sequence? What should be done in the first stage? What should be done in the next stage? Like that he arranges the sequence. See, he'll not literally involved in execution work. See here, you have to understand these foremen are the supervisors. Okay, they are the instructors, they are the guiders to the workforce. So under planning department you have route clerk who will be deciding the route of the work. What should be first, what should be next, and what should be next. He just plans the things. Is it clear? So different types of operations will be carried on in a single organization. This will be purely for the production department. So it can be like production planning department, production execution department we can add. Okay, so route clerk is purely concerned with planning about the different production units, that what should be done first and what should be done at the next stage. Alright, he has to prepare a sequence of operations and should instruct the execution department foremen to do so. That's it. So the work or the responsibility or the task of route clerk, R is missing there, it is route clerk. Okay, so he just decides the sequence, that is path, route. Okay, what should be done in the first stage, how the process has to be continued, what is the next, what is the third stage, like that he just decides the things. That is what he is in production planning department. Then comes instruction card clerk. So once the route clerk decides how the path should be, what should be done for the first and next, it is the responsibility of instruction card clerk that he should instruct how the equipment should be used, how the machinery should be used. Is it clear? How the process has to be should be used. His responsibility is to just think and make the things ready, how the work has to be carried on. He gives a detailed instruction. That's it. Now, next comes your time and cost clerk. So he is a foreman who will be setting standards, time and cost for every operation, for every production department. I told you, in a single industry there might be different production units. So if a particular company comes out with the different types of products, so each product will be having each production department. Right? Different production departments will be there in a single industry. Okay, so it is the foreman, time and cost clerk foreman, okay, who sets time and cost for each production department, for the each operation. Is it clear? So as I told you, different sequence of work will be there. What should be the what should be done for the first stage? For that, what is the time and what is the cost? That will be planned by whom? Time and cost clerk. Is that clear? Okay, then comes shop disciplinarian. He just follows, he just sees that all are following the disciplinary rules or not. He is there in an organization, particularly in production department, to see that the discipline is maintained or not. So these are the 4 types of foremen under your production planning department. The route clerk decides the sequence, what should be done first, what should be second, what should be third and fourth, like this he decides the path. Instruction card clerk decides what instructions has to be given and he gives the instructions. Okay, how to use the machinery, equipment, tools and all. That is his responsibility. Time and cost clerk will set standard for each operation. Okay, time and cost, within what time you have to finish this particular stage or path, and what should be the maximum cost you can spend over that. Okay, and last, shop discipliner will say that whether discipline is followed or not. It may be in different manners, like whether they are present at the right time or not, whether they are using uniform or not, they are using all the safety equipments or not. All these things will be planned by whom? The shop discipline. He will be looking after that. So these are the 4 types of foremen under your production planning department. So next you have production executive department. Okay, so once the planners does the plan and gives that plans to the executive department, it is their responsibility. These executive department foremen, now they will take the instructions from the planning department and then they start guiding whom? The workforce. So these are the production executive department foremen who will be actually getting work done by the workforce. First one is your gang boss. He is a foreman who makes everything ready. As we have seen in production planning department, the first one, that is the route clerk, will decide the path. So here gang boss will see that whether whether the work can be initiated or not. Preliminary works he will complete. All the preliminary works he completes and sees that the workforce come and start the work. Everything is ready or not. He just sees that. Okay. So your gang boss prepares or makes all preliminary work, that is he makes platform ready so that the workers come and they start their work immediately. Because a gang boss has got information from whom? The root clerk. Right? The root clerk has given the path that has been planned by him, and that planning is given to instructed to whom? The gang boss. So now gang boss will make all the preliminary things ready. He is a foreman under production executive department. Execution in the sense starting the work, doing the work, okay, as per plans. So they have planned and now the gang boss has to start the work. So actually the workers will be doing the work, but he makes everything ready. Gang boss makes everything ready. So once the workforce enters the production department, they can easily start the work. Is that clear? The next is your speed boss. He is a foreman who will be maintaining speed, who will be maintaining and looking after the speed of both men and machinery. Because as you know that we have time and cost clerk there. He has given a standard time and cost. Is that clear? He has given standard time and cost. Within this time the work has to be finished and within this cost the work has to be completed. So by getting such planning from the time and cost clerk, the speed boss sees that the workers do the work within the time. If they prolong the time, generally the cost might increase. As it happens, if for example, if you do a particular work within time, I'll be paying you this. If the time extends, I have to pay you extra. Means the organization has to pay extra payment to the workers. So speed boss sees that once he got instruction from whom? The time and cost clerk, within what time and within what cost he has to finish that work. Okay, he got that planning. Okay, according to that, the speed boss sees that and he motivates the employees, he guides the employees, that is workforce, that the work has to be completed within that period. In order to complete, a particular speed has to be maintained. Okay, so that will be looked after by whom? The speed boss. Then comes your repair boss. He is also a foreman who ensures, who specifies that all tools, all equipments and all machineries are ready to use. You don't have any issue with that. See, you just take an example. Our workers are ready, planning, everything is okay, but planning is made, workers are ready, okay, but you don't, you find some problem with the equipment or with the tool or the machinery. What happens? Your work will be delayed. If delays, what happens? Your time takes more. When time is more, when time is taken more, generally your cost of production increases. Hence, it is a repair boss who will go with each and every machinery with all tools and equipment and sees that they are in good condition. You don't have any issue with them. So when you start the production, you don't come out with any interruptions, that is any troubles with the machineries, equipments or tools. It is the responsibility of whom? A repair boss. Okay, he sees that all the things are ready to use. So employees comes, workforce will come and they can easily go with the work. They don't have any issue with the equipments. And the last one is your inspector. He is also a foreman who always sees that, compares with the standard set by the planning and sees that whether workers or the employees have are going as per the standards or not. So it is the responsibility of an inspector. He always compares the work done with the standards and standard set. If it is not done, he starts motivating the people and he intimates to the concerned people and sees that the work has been done within the right time. So like this, the foremanship job is divided, and the Taylor has come out with the 8 types of foremen. That is what your functional foremanship or divided foremanship. Here all these foremen, 8 foremen will be responsible. 4 will be responsible in planning and 4 will be responsible for execution of work. So the planners for planning foremen will plan everything and that will be given to the execution department, and it is the execution department who sees your differential piece rate wage system. It is a tool for payment, that is remuneration, salaries. Taylor says that equal remuneration is not advisable, right? Equal remuneration, that is, equity has to be maintained, that is, there should not be any discrimination regarding gender, regarding some other factors, but in the matter of payment, that is remuneration, the efficient workers has to be paid more and the inefficient has to be paid less. This is the guidance given by the Taylor to the managers. Accordingly, this differential piece rate wage system has been used as a tool by Taylor in a scientific management. So what he says is, you have to differentiate efficient workers and inefficient workers. More salaries has to be, more remuneration, good remuneration has to be given to the efficient workers. That is, the payment or the remuneration should be according to their efficiency. It is not purely according depending upon their status, right? In order to fulfill this particular, he has come out with a particular type of wage system, slab wise wage system, we can say. What he says is, for example, if you go with the time, say for example, if you work for 8 hours, you will be paid this. A works for 8 hours and he comes out with 10 units of product. Even B works for 8 hours but he comes with only 5 units of particular product. A works for 8 hours and B also works for 8 hours. But A comes with 10 units of product whereas B comes out with only 8. So, in that situation, Taylor says that more payment has to be given to the A because he has come out with more units of production, and less to B because he has come out with less. Okay. So, it does not go with the time. Both has worked for 8 hours, no doubt. Even A worked for 8 hours and B worked for 8 hours. But A, within 8 hours, he is able to come out with more units of production or product, whereas B is unable to do so. So, in such situation, Taylor suggests that according to slab, you have to fix the salaries or wages or remuneration. So, if you do so, if you pay more to the A, as he has come out with the more number of products, B will be inspired by that. B will be inspired. Okay. See, your standards may be set. For example, you have to work for 8 hours and you have to come out with 10 products. This is your standard time and also products you have set. A has met that, so you give him what you have decided, but you pay less to B because he is unable to come out with the products. Standard products, he is unable to reach the target. Right? Such a slab system has to be maintained in case of remuneration, Taylor says. That is what your differential piece rate wage system. For example, my standard is 10. Okay, you have to work for 8 hours and you have to come out with 8 units of product. If you are able to come out with more than that, more remuneration will be paid. Is that clear? What more than what it has been decided will be paid to you because you have crossed the standard. You have come out with the more number of products with the same efficiency again. Okay, but B has not done that, so less salaries will be paid to him. Such a slab has to be set, Taylor says. This is your differential piece rate wage system. And the last one is mental revolution. That is exchange of ideas between the superiors and subordinates and the management and workers. There should be constant exchange of ideas. So there should be good relationship. If there is an exchange, if there is a scope to exchange ideas between the top management and employees, generally good relationship will be maintained and cooperation will be attained. So he says that manager should always give a scope to express his views and to take the views of the subordinates, or it might be a workforce. Such a system has to be maintained in an organization, which is called mental revolution. There should be change in everyone's attitude. There should be. So generally when someone suggests, when bottom level managers comes out with the things, the middle management has to take that to the top level management. It may or may not be considered, that is secondary, but at least scope has to be given. So it is also one of the tools suggested by your F.W. Taylor. So these are all the tools. Once a manager is able to use all these tools in a right manner, surely he can come out with the uses, principles which are referred by Taylor. Now, we have comparisons. So one more pioneer of management principle is Erwick. Apart from your Henry Fayol and Frederick Winslow Taylor, your Erwick is also one of the contributor to the management principles. So he has compared both the principles. He has seen the management principles and general principles, and then he has summed up some of the similarities and differences. So now we have similarities. So these similarities and differences has been summed up by whom? Erwick. Okay. So he has found these similarities in Taylor's principle and also Henry Fayol's principle. He says that, Erwick says that both of them applied scientific methods. Though we say Henry Fayol principles are general management principles, even they are also considered as scientific, because he has seen the problem, he has experimented, and then he has come out with the solution. So this is the one of the feature of science. The same thing is applied by whom? The Henry Fayol also. Not only Taylor, it is also Henry Fayol that they have come out with scientific methods of making or contributing the principles. Both developed their idea through practice and experience. That is true. Even Henry Fayol is having he is having 58 years experience. In that, more than 30 years he worked as an MD, managing director of a company. And even Taylor is also having good experience in the management field. So both have come with a lot of experience. They have practiced and they have experimented, and then they have come out with the principles what we are seeing today. Both of them, both of them have recognized the universality of management. So both the principles, it might be Henry Fayol principles or Taylor principles, both have universality. That is, they are universally applied. It might be applied to any kind of organization. Okay, it might be profit making or non-profit making. These principles can be applied. Then both emphasized on personal and management at all levels. So both has given importance to the human resources. The human resource may be in the management or it might be in the workforce. So both Henry Fayol and Taylor has given importance to whom? To the people, that is personas. These are the similarities which can be asked for 2 or 4 marks. Then we have differences. So Erwick has found some of the differences between Fayol principles and Taylor along with the similarities. So those differences are like this. Fayol is considered, as we know, father of general management, and whereas Taylor is considered as father of scientific management. This is important, you should remember. Then Fayol focused on overall development of an organization, whereas Taylor mainly focused on increased production. Okay. Then Fayol emphasized on functions of managers, whereas Taylor on floor level in the sense shop level, that is bottom level, and workforce. Okay. So Taylor has given importance to the managers at all levels. It might be top level, middle level, and bottom level, whereas your Taylor has mainly concentrated on shop level, that is they are actually connected with the workforce, and there we can come out with the foremans who are actually concerned with or directly related with the workforce. So Taylor's concentration is more on shop level, that is bottom level workforce, whereas Fayol he emphasized his importance is on the functions of manager at the different levels. Then Fayol principles are accepted even at the present days. Okay, all general management principles are accepted at present days, whereas Taylor principles, there has been some of the modification in Taylor's principles. Okay, so if you see, optimum production was one of the principle, but now it is not counted again. Okay, in your syllabus also it is not counted, right? So in that way, Taylor principles have undergone some of the changes, whereas all the Fayol principles are as it is and they are followed at the present days also. So it is the difference. So even it can be asked for 4 or it might be for 2 marks. Alright. So go with, mainly start with the principles, then see the tools. Tools are also very important. Okay. So once we are good with these tools, we can easily follow, a manager can easily follow all scientific principles. Along with that, you have similarities and differences between Fayol and Taylor principle given by your Erwick. So I hope you have understood the topic and the left out topic in this chapter is only importance of principles of management. After knowing all the principles, I hope it will be easy for you to understand the importance. That we'll be seeing in our next class. Till then, take care.